The darkness of space stretched endlessly around the planet New Terra. The small human colony below sparkled with city lights, unaware of the massive threat gathering at the edge of their solar system. Ships began appearing one by one, dropping, out of faster-than-light travel with flashes of blue energy. First came the scouts, sleek vessels shaped like razor blades, their hulls gleaming silver in the starlight. They took positions around the system's outer planets, watching and waiting. Then came the destroyers, bigger ships with curved wings and glowing weapon ports. Finally, the massive battleships emerged from the void, each one the size of a city block. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, his reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his people. Green scales covered his tall frame, and his yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he watched the final ships take their positions. 847 vessels, Admiral, reported his second-in-command, a shorter Zarthak named Krexon. The humans have no chance. Vexatar nodded slowly. He had spent months planning this attack. The humans had been a minor annoyance for too long, spreading to new worlds and refusing to bow to the hegemony of Zarthak. Today, that would end. The hegemony ruled 12 different alien species across this part of the galaxy. For 3,000 years, they had conquered world after world. Their weapons could melt mountains. Their shields could stop any attack. No enemy had ever defeated them in open battle. "Show me the human forces," Vextar commanded. The main screen flickered to life. It showed empty space around New Terra. No massive fleet waited to defend the planet. No orbital weapons platforms hung in space. Just the normal traffic of cargo ships and civilian vessels. "Perhaps they have hidden ships," suggested Krexon. Vextar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "Humans do not hide. Krexon. They are too proud for that. No, they simply have nothing to fight with." As if summoned by his words, a single ship appeared on the sensors. It dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the planet and began moving toward the hegemony. "Fleet!" The bridge crew turned to look at their admiral, waiting for orders. "One ship?" Vextar could not believe what he was seeing. "They send one ship against our entire armada?" The human vessel grew larger on the screen as it approached. It looked ancient compared to the sleek hegemony ships. Its hull was dark gray metal, scarred from old battles. Strange symbols and numbers covered its sides. Weapon ports dotted its surface, but they looked primitive and crude. "It calls itself the UHDF. Defiance," reported the communications officer. "The humans are requesting permission to speak with you." Vexatar studied the approaching ship. It was maybe 300 meters long, tiny compared to his flagship. Its design looked like something from a museum. The humans still used physical, projectile weapons and chemical rockets. Their technology was hundreds of years behind the hegemony. "Let them speak," Vextar said. "I want to hear what they have to say before we destroy them." The screen changed to show the bridge of the human ship. A woman in a blue uniform sat in the captain's chair. She had short brown hair and calm gray eyes. Her face showed no fear, even though she faced impossible odds. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Human Defense Force," she said. "You are in violation of human space. I demand that you withdraw immediately." The bridge erupted in laughter. Even Vextar could not help but chuckle at the woman's boldness. She commanded one small ship against hundreds, yet she made demands like she held all the power. "I am Admiral Vextar of the hegemony of Zarthak," he replied. "Your species has expanded far enough. These worlds belong to us now. You have 72 hours to surrender completely, or we will take them by force." Captain Chen's expression did not change. "These are human colonies, established by human settlers. We will not abandon them." "Then you will die defending them," Vextar said simply. "Look around you, human. We have brought nearly 1,000 ships. You have brought one. Do you really think you can fight us?" For the first time, Captain Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Admiral, you have made a mistake. Coming here. I strongly advise you to reconsider." More laughter filled the bridge. Crexon stepped forward, his scales bright with amusement. "Human, your ship looks like it belongs in a scrap yard. Our smallest fighter could destroy it with one shot. What could you possibly do against our fleet?" Captain Chen looked directly at Crexon. "You would be surprised what humans can do when we have to." The communication ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Vexitar stared at the screen, thinking about the human captain's words. There had been something in her voice, a confidence that seemed out of place. But what could one ship do? "Admiral," the sensor officer called out. "The human ship is moving to a position between us and the planet. They appear to be waiting." Vextar looked at the tactical display. The tiny human ship sat alone in space, completely surrounded by his massive fleet. It reminded him of a small animal facing a pack of predators, refusing to run even though it had no chance of survival. "What do we know about human weapons?" he asked. Crexon pulled up files on the main screen. "Primitive projectile weapons. That fire metal slugs. Simple energy beams with limited range. Basic missile systems. Their shields are weak electromagnetic barriers. Admiral, their most powerful weapon could barely scratch our hull armor." Vextar nodded. The hegemony had fought humans before in small skirmishes on the frontier. Human ships always fled when faced with superior numbers. They were smart enough to know when they were beaten. But this captain seemed different. "Perhaps she is insane," suggested the communications officer. "Or perhaps she knows something." "We do not," Vextar said quietly. The bridge fell silent again. Outside, the stars shone coldly on the gathered fleets. The human ship continued to wait, making no hostile moves but showing no signs of retreat either. "Orders, Admiral?" asked Crexon. Vexitar studied the tactical display one more time. One ship against 847. It should be no contest at all. But something nagged at him, a feeling he could not quite identify. "We wait," he decided. "The humans have 72 hours to surrender. Let them use that time to think about their situation. Perhaps wisdom will overcome their pride." Deep inside, though, Vexitar suspected that Captain Chen would not surrender. There had been something in her eyes, a determination that reminded him of the most dangerous enemies he had ever faced. The ones who fought hardest were always those who believed they had nothing to lose. He just hoped that when the fighting started, it would end quickly. The last thing the hegemony needed was a long, bloody war with the humans. But looking at that lone ship sitting defiantly in space, Vextar began to suspect that quick and easy might not be possible. The countdown had begun. 36 hours had passed since the ultimatum began. Admiral Vextar stood in his private quarters, studying reports from across the galaxy. Similar scenes were playing out on dozens of human worlds. The hegemony had launched simultaneous attacks on every major human colony. Most human fleets had already retreated or been destroyed. Only a few stubborn holdouts remained, and they would fall within days. The conquest was going exactly as planned, except for one small problem. The human ships still waited near New Terra, refusing to surrender or retreat. "Admiral, you have another communication request from the human captain," announced Crexon over the intercom. Vextar sighed and returned to the bridge. Captain Chen appeared on the main screen again. She looked tired but still determined. Behind her, Vextar could see human crew members working at their stations with calm efficiency. "Admiral," Chen began, "I want to make you an offer." "The time for offers has passed, human. You have 36 hours remaining to surrender." "Listen to me carefully," Chen said, leaning forward in her chair. "Withdraw your fleet now, and no one has to die today. Continue this course, and you will regret it." The bridge erupted in laughter again, but this time Vextar did not join in. There was something different about the human captain's voice. She was not pleading or desperate. She sounded like someone giving a final warning. "Captain Chen," Vextar said slowly, "you command one ship against my entire armada. What possible threat could you pose to us?" "The same threat we have always posed to those who underestimate us," Chen replied. "We adapt. We innovate. We survive." Crexon stepped forward, his scales bright with irritation. "Human, we have studied your technology for years. You fight with metal bullets and chemical explosions. We have energy shields that stop such primitive weapons easily." Captain Chen looked directly at Crexon. "You studied our old technology. Things change." "Not enough to matter," Crexon shot back. "Your entire species is centuries behind us. You still use fusion reactors while we harness quantum energy. You crawl between stars while we dance across the galaxy. What could you possibly have developed? That would concern us." For the first time, Captain Chen looked angry. "You want to know what we developed? We developed the will to protect what is ours. We developed the determination to never surrender. And we developed weapons you cannot even imagine." The communication ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Vextar stared at the blank screen, thinking about the captain's words. Weapons they could not imagine? Impossible. The hegemony had the most advanced technology in the galaxy. "Scan their ship again," Vexatar ordered. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about that vessel." The sensor officer worked at his console for several minutes. "Admiral, the readings are strange." "Explain." "The ship's power output is much higher than expected. Their reactor must be incredibly efficient. But I am detecting some kind of energy buildup in their forward section. It does not match any known weapon system." Vextar felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of energy?" "Unknown, sir. The readings fluctuate in patterns I have never seen before. It almost looks like they are manipulating space itself, but that should be impossible with their technology." Crexon moved to another console. "Admiral, I am reading massive data transmissions from the human ship to the planet below. They are sending and receiving enormous amounts of information. Can we decode it?" "No, sir. The encryption is beyond our capabilities, but the sheer volume suggests they are coordinating something complex." Vextar felt his confidence beginning to waver. The humans were acting like they had a plan, like they knew something his forces did not. But what could they possibly know that would change the outcome of this battle? "Open a channel to all ships," he commanded. "I want battle formations. Prepare for combat." As his fleet began to move, Vextar watched the human ship on his screen. It remained motionless, showing no fear as hundreds of warships surrounded it. The calm confidence of its crew bothered him more than open defiance would have. "Admiral," the communications officer reported, "we are receiving signals from other hegemony fleets across human space. They report that some human colonies have unusual defensive capabilities." "What do you mean, unusual?" "The reports are confused, sir. Some mention weapons that appear to violate known physics. Others describe human ships that seem to have impossible power outputs. Command is requesting more information." Vextar's hands clenched into fists. The humans were supposed to be primitive. Their technology was supposed to be laughably inferior. But the reports suggested something else entirely. "Get me Admiral Torex commanding the fleet at Wolf 359, Vextar ordered. The screen flickered, showing another reptilian face. Admiral Torex looked shaken, his scales pale with fear. Behind him, Vextar could see crew members running frantically between stations. "Vextar, thank the ancestors you called," Torex said, quickly. "We need to withdraw immediately. The humans have weapons we never suspected." "What are you talking about?" They destroyed 3 of my dreadnoughts with a single shot from 1 frigate. A single shot, Vextar. The weapon turned our best armor into dust. Our shields might as well have been made of paper. Vextar felt his blood turn cold. That is impossible. I watched it happen. The human ship fired something that looked like concentrated starlight. Whatever it touched simply ceased to exist. We retreated immediately, but they could have destroyed our entire fleet if they wanted to. The communication ended as Torex's fleet fled the system. Vextar stood frozen, trying to process what he had heard. If the humans had such weapons, why had they hidden them for so long? Why pretend to be primitive? Admiral, Crexon said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider our attack. Before Vextar could respond, Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge. Again. Admiral Vextar, this is your final warning. You have 10 minutes to begin withdrawing your fleet. After that, I will consider you a hostile force and act accordingly. This time, no one laughed. The bridge was completely silent as everyone stared at the small human ship on their screens. It still looked ancient and crude, but now it seemed somehow different. More dangerous. Captain Chen, Vexitar said carefully, what exactly are you threatening us with? I am not threatening you, Admiral. I am giving you one last chance to leave peacefully. Your choice. The communication ended again. Vextar looked around his bridge at the frightened faces of his crew. These were hardened. Warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds, but now they looked like younglings afraid of the dark. Orders, Admiral? Whispered Crexon. Vextar stared at the human ship. Pride warred with caution in his mind. The hegemony had never retreated from an inferior force. But if the humans truly had these impossible weapons, attacking might be suicide. 9 minutes remained until Captain Chen's deadline. The longest 9 minutes of Admiral Vextar's life were about to begin. 8 minutes until Captain Chen's deadline. Admiral Vextar paced back and forth on his bridge, his claws clicking against the metal floor. Every instinct told him to retreat, but 3,000 years of hegemony tradition demanded he fight. No alien species had ever made the mighty Zarthak back down from battle. Sir, the communications officer called out, we are receiving urgent messages from Hegemony Command. Put them through. Supreme Admiral Kethrak appeared on the screen, his ancient scales marked with the scars of 100 victories. His yellow eyes burned with fury as he spoke. Vextar, what is happening out there? We are getting reports of massive defeats across human space. Admiral Torex claims the humans have impossible weapons. Admiral Nixara reports her entire forward squadron was destroyed by some kind of beam that ignored our shields completely. Vexitar felt his heart sink. If multiple fleets were reporting the same thing, then the human weapons were real. Supreme, Admiral, the humans appear to have hidden their true capabilities. They may be far more advanced than we believed. Impossible! Kethrak roared. We have spies in their government. We know their technology. They are primitive mammals who barely understand gravity manipulation. With respect, Supreme Admiral, the evidence suggests otherwise. Kethrak's expression grew deadly calm. Vextar, you will attack that human ship immediately. The reputation of the hegemony is at stake. If we retreat from one small vessel, every species in the galaxy will think we are weak. But, sir, if the reports are true, attacking could mean the destruction of my entire fleet. Then you will die gloriously for the hegemony, Kethrak said coldly. That is an order, Admiral. Attack now. The communication ended, leaving Vextar alone with his terrible choice. Obey orders and possibly lose everything, or disobey and face execution for cowardice. Either way, his career was over. 5 minutes remaining, announced Crexon quietly. Vexitar looked at the human ship on his screen. Captain Chen sat calmly in her command chair, apparently unworried by the hundreds of warships surrounding her. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency, making final preparations for something. But what? "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "the energy readings from the human ship are increasing rapidly. Whatever they are charging, it is drawing enormous amounts of power." "How much power?" "More than our entire fleet generates combined. Admiral, that is impossible. No ship that size should be able to produce such energy levels." Vextar felt, sweat beading on his scaled forehead. The humans were about to demonstrate their secret weapon, and his fleet was about to become the target. But he had his orders. "All ships, prepare to attack," he commanded reluctantly. "Target the human vessel. On my mark, all weapons fire simultaneously." "Admiral," Crexon said desperately, "perhaps we should reconsider. If the humans truly have these weapons, we could negotiate instead of fighting." "The Supreme Admiral has given his orders," Vextar replied, though his voice lacked conviction. "We are soldiers of the hegemony. We follow commands." The tactical display showed his ships moving into attack formation, 847 vessels against 1. In any normal battle, the outcome would be certain. But this was not a normal battle. 2 minutes remaining, Crexon announced. Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge again. "Admiral Vextar, I can see your ships preparing to attack. I want to be very clear about something. If you fire on us, we will respond with full force. Your fleet will be destroyed completely. This is not a bluff or an empty threat. It is a promise." Vextar opened a channel. "Captain Chen, I have been ordered to attack. If you surrender now, I will guarantee the safety of your crew." Chen smiled sadly. "Admiral, you still do not understand. We are not the ones in danger here. You are." "How can you say that? You have one ship against hundreds." "Admiral, let me ask you something. In all your studies of human history, what did you learn about how we fight wars?" Vextar thought for a moment. "You are stubborn and refuse to surrender easily. You use guerrilla tactics and asymmetric warfare." "That is part of it," Chen agreed. "But you missed the most important thing. When humans are threatened, when our homes and families are in danger, we do not just fight harder. We innovate. We create new weapons, new tactics, new ways to survive. We become dangerous in ways our enemies never expect. You are still just one ship. Admiral, do you know what humanity's greatest strength is? It is not our weapons or our technology. It is our ability to prepare for the worst. Every human colony has been working for years on new defensive systems. Every human ship carries weapons that did not exist 5 years ago. We let you study our old technology while we developed new capabilities in secret." Vexatar felt a chill of understanding. "You have been preparing for this war all along." "We have been preparing for the day when someone would try to destroy us," Chen corrected. "We hoped it would never come. But we were ready when it did." 1 minute remaining, Crexon whispered. The human ship began to change. Panels slid back along its hull, revealing something that gleamed like captured starlight. The weapon ports Vextar had dismissed as primitive were opening wider, and energy was building inside them that made his sensors scream warnings. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out in panic. "The energy readings are off the scale, whatever they are about. To fire. It is beyond anything in our database." Vextar stared at the human ship as it transformed before his eyes. What had looked like an ancient relic now appeared to be the most advanced vessel he had ever seen. The scars on its hull were not signs of age, but battle honors. The crude appearance had been deliberate camouflage. 30 seconds, Crexon announced. Captain Chen appeared on the screen one final time. Her calm expression had not changed, but her eyes now held something that made Vextar's blood freeze. It was not anger or fear. It was pity. "Admiral Vextar," she said quietly, "I tried to warn you. I gave you every chance to leave peacefully. Your leaders chose war over wisdom. What happens next is not my fault. Captain, please, Vextar found himself saying. My crew did not choose this fight. They are just following orders. Then you should have given better orders, Chen replied. Time is up, Admiral. I am sorry. The screen went dark. Around his ship, Vextar could see his fleet weapons charging to fire. In moments, 847 warships would unleash enough firepower to destroy a moon. It should be more than enough to vaporize one human vessel. But as he watched the UHDF Defiance floating calmly in space, Admiral Vextar had the terrible feeling that he was about to learn why humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Time seemed to slow as Admiral Vextar gave the final command. All ships, fire. 847 warships opened fire simultaneously. The space around the human vessel filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic projectiles. Enough firepower to glass a planet converged on the tiny UHDF Defiance. The light was so bright that the bridge crew had to shield their eyes. When the glow faded, Vextar expected to see empty space where the human ship had been. Instead, the Defiance hung motionless in the center of a perfect sphere of shimmering energy. Every shot had been absorbed or deflected by some kind of shield, technology that made their attacks look like raindrops hitting a mountain. Impossible, breathed Crexon. No shield can stop that much firepower. Captain Chen's voice reached them across the void, calm and sad. You were warned, Admiral. Now you will see what humanity has built to protect itself. The human ship began to turn slowly, bringing its main weapon to bear on the hegemony fleet. As it moved, reality itself seemed to ripple around the vessel. Space bent and twisted in ways that hurt to look at directly. Admiral, the sensor officer called out in terror. I am reading massive gravitational distortions around the human ship. The laws of physics appear to be breaking down in that area. What are they doing? I do not know, sir. The energy readings are beyond our instrument's ability to measure. Whatever they are charging, it is drawing power from sources I cannot identify. Vexitar watched in horrified fascination as the front of the human ship opened like a flower. Inside, something that was not quite light and not quite darkness swirled in patterns that made his eyes water. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, like looking into the heart of a dying star. All ships! Evasive maneuvers! Vexitar shouted. Get us away from that thing! But his fleet was too close, packed too tightly together for a coordinated attack. Ships began trying to turn and flee, but they moved like insects trapped in amber, slow and clumsy compared to the elegant precision of the human weapon. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Chen sat quietly in her command chair. Her engineering officer, a tall man with graying hair, looked up from his console with grim satisfaction. 0-point array charged and ready, Captain. All safety interlocks removed. We have one shot. Chen nodded slowly. Target the center of their formation. Maximum yield. Aye, Captain. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The universe held its breath. Then the Defiance fired its weapon, and everything changed. What emerged from the human ship was not energy or matter or anything that had a name. It was pure nothingness, given form and direction, a beam of absolute void that erased everything it touched from existence itself. The beam reached Admiral. Torex's flagship first. For a split second, nothing seemed to happen. The massive dreadnought continued its attempt to turn away, its engines flaring with desperate power. Then the beam touched the ship's hull, and it simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not vaporized, not blown apart. It simply was not there anymore, as if it had never been built at all. Where moments before a 1,000-meter warship had struggled to escape, now there was only empty space. But the beam did not stop. It continued its inexorable path through the tightly packed hegemony formation, and every ship it touched suffered the same fate. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and fighters all ceased to exist in perfect silence. No explosions marked. They're passing. No debris scattered into space. They were simply there one moment and gone the next. Vexatar watched in absolute horror as a perfect cylinder of nothingness carved through his fleet. Ships that had been built over decades, that had conquered dozens of worlds, that represented the pinnacle of hegemony technology, all became nothing in the span of seconds. "Admiral!" Crexon screamed. "We need to get out of here!" "All ships, emergency jump," Vextar commanded. "Get us out of this system now!" Those ships lucky enough to be outside the beam's path began desperately charging their faster-than-light drives, but the weapon's effect was spreading beyond its direct path. Reality itself seemed unstable in the area, making jump calculations impossible. The beam continued its deadly work for exactly 37 seconds. When it finally ended, nearly 700 ships had simply ceased to exist. The survivors hung motionless in space, their crews too shocked to move or speak. Captain Chen opened a communication channel to the remaining hegemony vessels. Her face appeared on their screens, showing no triumph or satisfaction, only sadness at what had been necessary. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Human Defense Force," she said quietly. "To the surviving ships of the hegemony fleet, you are ordered to leave this system immediately. You will return to your space and inform your leaders that humanity is under the protection of weapons beyond your understanding." Vextar found his voice somehow. What did you do to them?" "We removed them from existence," Chen replied simply. "The zero-point field manipulation weapon creates a localized area where quantum vacuum energy becomes unstable. Matter and energy within that field simply cease to exist on any level of reality. That is impossible. Such technology cannot exist." "Admiral, 5 minutes ago you thought human technology was primitive. You were wrong then, and you are wrong now. Humanity has spent decades preparing for this day. We hoped it would never come, but we were ready when it did." Crexon stepped forward, his scales pale with shock. "How many ships do you have with such weapons?" Chen smiled sadly. "That information is classified. But I will tell you this. Every human world is protected by similar technology. Every human fleet carries weapons you cannot imagine. We let you study our conventional forces while we developed something completely different." Vexatar looked at his tactical display. Of his original 847 ships, only 53 remained. The pride of the hegemony had been reduced to scattered survivors in less than a minute. "Your message will be delivered," he said quietly. "See that it is, Admiral. And remember, we did not seek this war. You brought it to our doorstep. We simply finished it." The communication ended, leaving the surviving hegemony ships alone with their trauma. One by one, they began jumping to faster-than-light travel, fleeing the system as quickly as their damaged drives could manage. As the last alien ship disappeared, Captain Chen slumped back in her command chair. Her chief engineer approached with a concerned expression. "Captain, the zero-point array is completely burned out. We will not be able to fire again." Chen nodded wearily. "I know, Chief. Let us just hope we will not need to." Around them, space was eerily quiet. Where hours before an enormous fleet had gathered to threaten New Terra, now only empty void remained. The human ship floated alone among the stars, guardian of a world that slept peacefully below, unaware of how close they had come to conquest. 3 days had passed since the battle at New Terra. Admiral Vexatar sat in his personal quarters aboard his damaged flagship, staring at the reports scattered across his desk. Each one told the same impossible story. Across human space, hegemony. Fleets had been destroyed or forced to retreat by weapons that should not exist. The door chimed, and Crexon entered without waiting for permission. His second-in-command looked like he had aged years in the past few days. His scales were dull, and his eyes held the haunted look of someone who had seen too much. The final casualty reports, Admiral, Crexon said quietly, placing a data pad on the desk. Vextar picked it up and read the numbers. Of the 12 major fleets that had attacked human worlds simultaneously, only fragments remained. Thousands of ships destroyed or simply erased from existence. Millions of hegemony soldiers dead or missing. The largest military disaster in their species' history. How many ships made it back to hegemony space? Vextar asked. Fewer than 200 across all theaters, Crexon replied. And most of those are too damaged to fight again for months. Vextar set down the report and rubbed his tired eyes. What word from Supreme Admiral Kethrak? He has been stripped of command and executed for incompetence. The High Council is demanding answers that no one can provide. And the other species in the hegemony? Crexon's expression grew even more grim. The Velnari have already withdrawn their fleets and are requesting separate peace talks with the humans. The Teklar are refusing to send reinforcements. 3 other member species are considering leaving the hegemony entirely. Vextar was not surprised. The hegemony had been built on the promise of easy conquest and shared plunder. When faced with an enemy that could erase entire fleets with single shots, that promise became worthless. What about our intelligence networks? Surely our spies can tell us how the humans developed such weapons. Our spy networks have gone completely silent, Crexon admitted. Every agent we had in human space has either been captured or has stopped responding. The humans knew about our intelligence operations all along. Vextar felt a chill of understanding. They let us spy on them. They fed us false information about their capabilities while preparing their real defenses. It appears so, sir. For years, possibly decades, they have been showing us exactly what they wanted us to see. A communication alert sounded. Vextar accepted the incoming message, and Captain Chen's face appeared on his personal screen. She looked tired but determined, sitting in what appeared to be a different ship's bridge. Admiral Vextar, she said, formally. I hope you made it back to hegemony space safely. We did, Captain, though barely. Vextar paused, then asked the question that had been haunting him. How long have you been preparing for this war? Chen considered her answer carefully. We have been preparing for the possibility of invasion since first contact with alien species. When we learned about the hegemony's expansion pattern, we knew it was only a matter of time before you came for us. You could have revealed your weapons earlier, avoided this conflict entirely. Could we? Chen asked. Your species has spent 3,000 years conquering others. Would you have stopped your expansion if we had simply asked nicely? Vextar had no answer to that. The hegemony did not negotiate with species they considered inferior. They conquered or destroyed them. What do you want from us now? He asked instead. Peace, Chen said simply. We want your fleets to stay in hegemony space. We want your species to find ways to grow and prosper without conquering others. We want to be left alone to develop our own worlds in our own way. And if the hegemony refuses, if we build new fleets and attack again? Chen's expression grew cold. Admiral, what you saw at New Terra was one ship with one weapon. Every human world has similar defenses. Every human fleet carries weapons designed specifically to fight hegemony technology. If you force us to defend ourselves again, we will not limit ourselves to defensive actions. The threat was clear. The humans had been holding back, showing mercy even in victory. If pushed too far, they would take the war to hegemony worlds. I will carry your message to the High Council, Vextar promised. See that you do. And Admiral, tell them something else. Humanity does not want to be an empire. We do not want to conquer other species or rule over alien worlds, but we will protect what is ours with whatever force is necessary. The communication ended, leaving Vextar alone with his thoughts. Outside his viewport, the stars looked the same as always, but everything had changed. The hegemony was no longer the dominant power in this region of space. That title now belonged to a species they had dismissed as primitive only days before. A week later, Vextar stood before the High Council on the Hegemony homeworld. The ancient chamber was filled with representatives from all member species, their faces showing fear and uncertainty. The mighty alliance that had ruled this part of the galaxy was crumbling. "Admiral Vextar," spoke High Counselor Yethkara, her aged voice echoing in the vast chamber, "give us your assessment of human military capabilities." Vextar chose his words carefully. "Honored counselors, humanity possesses weapons technology that is centuries beyond our understanding. Their defensive capabilities make conquest impossible. Their offensive potential could threaten every world in hegemony space." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. Several species representatives began whispering among themselves, clearly considering their options. "You recommend surrender?" asked another counselor. "I recommend peace," Vextar replied. "The humans have shown that they can destroy us if they choose to, but they have also shown mercy by limiting their response to defensive actions. We should accept their terms before they lose patience with our aggression." The debate that followed lasted for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The hegemony formally requested peace negotiations with humanity within the week. The treaty that resulted established clear boundaries between human and hegemony space, with strict non-aggression clauses. Months later, Vextar received reports that other species across the galaxy were approaching humanity with offers of trade and alliance. The humans had become a major power overnight, not through conquest, but through the demonstration of overwhelming defensive capability. Standing on the bridge of his new command, a much smaller ship assigned to patrol duties, Vextar thought about the lesson his species had learned the hard way. Power was not always about having the biggest fleet or the most advanced technology. Sometimes it was about being underestimated by your enemies until the moment you revealed your true capabilities. The humans had spent decades appearing weak while building weapons that could erase entire fleets from existence. They had let the hegemony spy on them while feeding false information to their enemies. They had prepared for the worst while hoping for peace. Now, across the galaxy, the name human was spoken with respect and caution. The species that had been mocked as primitive had proven that appearances could be deceiving. They had fired once, and nothing had remained of the greatest invasion fleet in hegemony history. Vextar had learned many things in his long military career, but the most important lesson came from a small ship called the UHDF Defiance. Never underestimate a species that fights to protect its home. Never assume that technology you can see is all the technology they possess, and never, ever mock the human ship.